Good evening and welcome to 365 Days of Amazing Stories with Theo Mayer. Here we are on day 35 of 2024. And I'm continuing stories from Fire on the Mountain, Living with Wildfire in Big Sur. Well, tonight I can tell you, we are not living with wildfire. We're living with quite an extreme storm. And it's been damaging to a lot of trees in the forest. Many live trees are just coming down. The winds are so intense. Over 60-mile-per-hour gusts, and perhaps in the background you can hear the rain hitting the roof. It's rained a lot, many inches in the last 24 hours, which is typical in the wintertime. Being so close to the Pacific Ocean, these storms come blowing off the ocean and hit the elevation of the mountains and just dump so much water very, very quickly. So, I left the story off where I had gotten down the bottom of the hill where I was picking Chris up. And he was cold, wet, only in a t-shirt. It happens that when I got to the bottom of Long Ridge, the dirt road, there were quite a few fire personnel there where the dirt met the pavement. Not only was Long Ridge Road right there going up, but there was also a road up Rocky Creek. So there's kind of three roads converging right there at the hoist or the bottom of Long Ridge Road. And this is where all these fire trucks were and fire personnel. And I came down and I, stopped for a second to take the truck out of four-wheel drive and then continued down pavement, going slower than usual because there were so many people around. Now, the IC, Incident Commander, it doesn't stay the same person, unfortunately. Otherwise, the person would have to be up for hours and hours on end. So the leadership of everything that's going on during a fire changes hands. And there was an IC there that I drove past, and he felt like I was driving too fast. So he followed me all the way down the hill to where I was picking up Chris. He stops me there where I had stopped, and he says something to the effect of, "Whoa there, cowboy. Need to slow that rig down," or something like that. And I didn't respond at all. I was tired. I was kind of irritated that he would stop and say that. And I wanted to get back up the hill. Chris hopped in, and we drive back up the hill from Rocky Creek toward the hoist and Long Ridge Road. And that guy had pulled his pickup truck in front of our road to the point where it was difficult to get past him. But I did. I think he just wanted to make trouble for me because I had kind of blown him off. And later, I believe he reported my ill behavior to Cheryl, because I heard about it from her as well. I really didn't care at that point. And I just drove around him and up the hill to Long Ridge, because we had fire up there. Egos, they can cause problems, that is for certain. So up the hill we went, and we got to the house and hopped out the property, and a house was burning. The flames were so high, probably 80 or 90 feet high, houses have a lot of material to burn, a lot of fuel to feed a fire, and it's condensed. And the materials tend to be very dry if they're wood, because at least that house that was burning had been there quite a while. Now, the other thing that was happening when we got there was there were propane tanks that were blevying. So imagine having liquid propane in a tank and having a fire all around it. And it heats the liquid propane up to the point of boiling. Propane tanks have a relief valve. And so when the pressure gets too high, propane gas is released out this relief valve. Now you can imagine if there's fire near where this relief valve is, as that gas is released, it just turns into like a huge blowtorch. So this is what was happening. And the propane continued to get hotter and hotter, the tank blevying more and more until it exploded with quite a huge explosion. This is not a good thing. You're concerned about a fire and concerned about putting it out. The pieces of a propane tank can fly huge distances when they blow up like that. Well, Chris and I were startled by the explosion. We were both doing everything we could to make sure that if an ember from this fire landed somewhere in our zone of safety, that it wouldn't turn into a big blaze. So we were taking materials and pushing them into areas that had already been burned. We cut some, big branches down that were potential fire hazards and moved them into a place that was safe. And as we're doing this, we see light over in the direction of my upper orchard. And I look over there, and once again now a fire has started. So we have fire down the hill where this house has just burned, and now we have fire over on the other side as well. It was very fortunate that we came up the hill. So I tried to run a hose over to, but it was too far. So Chris and I grabbed shovels and we walked over to this fire. And I explained to him what we were going to do, but he had never actively worked a fire before. So this was kind of a new experience for him, and he said as we were walking over there, he was a little bit concerned. I said, "Oh, don't worry, it'll be fine." And so we did the same thing that Zach and I had done earlier that evening. We shoveled dirt onto the fire, and we pushed the burning material into the road below. And after about half hour, we had that put out to the point where we felt it was safe. We turned around and went back the other direction and continued to monitor this huge blaze that was happening just below us. The fortunate thing was that CAL FIRE had done a pretty good job of back burning around my property and the Palestrini property that was just up the hill, so the fire couldn't make its advance further up the hill. It would stop at a certain point, but it was traversing the hillside and heading toward the next house, which was, again, a dry tinderbox full of fuel for the fire. And we'll stop the story there, and I'll continue it tomorrow. Hope you have a good rest of your day or evening.